The old two-lane highway stretched endlessly into the horizon, swallowed by the dense forests on either side. In the grey light of evening, the asphalt shimmered like a long, dying snake. Every so often, a battered road sign would pass by the window, so rusted it was barely legible. Ethan Granger shifted uneasily in his seat, one hand on the steering wheel, the other drumming nervously on the dashboard. The car's old engine whined beneath him, a tired sound that matched the restless churn in his stomach. "Welcome to Hollow Creek," the next sign read in faded letters, "Population 412. Ethan snorted under his breath. 412 people. He hadn't seen a single soul since he exited the interstate an hour ago. It felt like driving into a ghost story. He was coming home, if you could call it that. Hollow Creek had been his birthplace, sure, but it hadn't been his home in 20 years. After his father's sudden death, the lawyers had tracked Ethan down in Chicago and handed him the key to the old Granger house, along with a pile of unanswered questions. The town hadn't changed much. In fact, it seemed stuck in a time warp. The gas stations were still old-fashioned pumps, the diner's signs swung on squeaky chains in the growing wind, and the general store looked as abandoned as the empty streets. As Ethan drove past Main Street, something strange caught his eye. Every window he passed was dark. Not a single light in the houses, not a single person on the sidewalks. It was just after 6 o'clock. Where was everybody? His phone buzzed weakly in the seat beside him. No service, of course. Hollow Creek was the kind of place that the modern world had long forgotten. As he turned onto Willow Lane, the road leading to the family home, he felt the temperature inside the car drop slightly. He rubbed his arms and glanced out the window at the rows of ancient oak trees, their twisted branches clawing at the sky like broken fingers. Finally, he pulled into the gravel driveway of the house he'd tried so hard to forget. It looked worse than he remembered. The two-story Victorian sagged slightly to the right, its white paint peeling like sunburned skin. The porch swing groaned in the wind, creaking slowly back and forth even though there was no one sitting there. For a moment, Ethan thought he saw something, a shadow in one of the upstairs windows, but when he blinked, it was gone. He grabbed his duffel bag from the back seat, slammed the car door harder than necessary, and made his way toward the front steps. Gravel crunched loudly under his boots. He hesitated at the door, the old wood looking more like a barrier than a welcome. The key shook slightly in his hand as he fitted it into the lock. The door creaked open with a moan that sounded almost human. The house smelled of dust and old memories. Ethan stepped inside, the floorboards groaning under his weight. Somewhere deep within the house, a door slammed. Ethan froze. The door groaned on its hinges as Ethan pushed it fully open, the sound echoing into the hollow darkness beyond. He hesitated on the threshold, the musty air pressing against his face like a damp cloth. Inside, the house was colder than it had any right to be. Even the air felt wrong somehow, heavier, denser, as if he had stepped underwater. He reached into his duffel and pulled out a small flashlight, thumbing it on. A narrow beam cut through the darkness, illuminating faded wallpaper and cracked picture frames. Dust motes danced lazily in the beam, disturbed by the slight breeze that seemed to come from deeper inside the house. Bang! Another door slammed somewhere upstairs. Ethan flinched, his heart hammering in his chest. "It's just the wind," he muttered under his breath. But even as he said it, he didn't believe it. He moved cautiously through the living room. The furniture was still there, old, draped with white sheets now yellowed with age. His mother's rocking chair sat in the corner by the fireplace, slowly rocking back and forth, rocking back and forth. Ethan froze, the beam of his flashlight trembling slightly. No windows were open, no vents, no draft strong enough to move that heavy chair. He shook his head and moved past it quickly, refusing to look back. The house knew he was there, he could feel it. At the foot of the staircase, he paused. The steps stretched upward into darkness, the kind of black that seemed to swallow light whole. For a moment he thought he heard something, a faint whisper just at the edge of hearing. "Come back." He shook his head violently. Hallucination, stress. The mind played tricks, especially in a place like this. He found the kitchen at the back of the house. The counters were cluttered with dishes, still stacked as if someone had just walked away in the middle of a meal. A layer of dust coated everything, but there was something worse underneath, a faint metallic smell that turned his stomach. Blood? No. He leaned in closer. Rust, maybe. Old pipes. Old house smells. Still, he didn't linger. He opened the refrigerator out of instinct, even though he knew it was pointless. Inside, instead of emptiness, he found something that made him step back in horror. A dead bird, its wings spread wide, its body stiff and shriveled with age, lay on the middle shelf. A crude red symbol had been drawn on the inside of the refrigerator door, smeared and dripping downwards as if freshly painted. The symbol looked almost ritualistic. Ethan slammed the door shut, breathing hard. What the hell was going on here? He needed to check upstairs, get it over with, make sure he was alone. Maybe then he could sleep if he dared. Clutching the flashlight tighter, he made his way back to the staircase. Each step creaked under his weight, the sound absurdly loud in the silence. Halfway up, he thought he heard it again, whispering, soft, urgent, calling. He reached the top landing, and the beam of his flashlight flicked left and right, casting long, stretching shadows across the hallway. The doors to the bedroom stood slightly ajar, like open mouths. He tried the first one, his old bedroom. The door resisted at first, sticking to the frame like it didn't want to open, but he shoved harder. Inside, it was exactly as he remembered it. The small twin bed, the desk by the window, the peeling posters of bands he no longer listened to. Dust coated every surface like a second skin. But there was something new, something impossible. On the bed lay a small crumpled note. With shaking hands, Ethan picked it up. In a child's messy scrawl, it read, "You should not have come back." The note smelled faintly of earth, like it had been buried and then dug up. Behind him, from somewhere deep within the house, a soft giggle echoed through the darkness. A child's laugh. But Ethan knew, he knew, that there hadn't been any children in Hollow Creek for years.